The UK is set to send an additional £1 billion worth of aid to Ukraine, but that money is being leached from state funds for helping millions of people in African and Asian countries. Nevertheless, the British government's business chief has praised the move.
A vital £1 billion commitment from Boris Johnson to enhance Ukraine's resistance against Russia. British weapons, equipment and training are transforming Ukraine's defenses. My department has contributed to the effort by surrendering climate finance and foreign aid underspends.
The UK's Energy Secretary is patting himself on the back for promising to use funding earmarked for climate change initiatives and for helping those underdeveloped countries to support NATO's weapons shopping spree in Ukraine. And to justify the move, the minister is using a new buzzword for this magically available cash, the underspends, meaning that we're supposed to believe that there was money just laying about that couldn't be used because there was just already so much of it already for climate and foreign aid. Environmentalists have already had to face the insult of seeing coal plants and fossil fuel infrastructure getting fired up again in Western countries after officials slapped sanctions on their own energy supplies from Russia.
Underspends on climate finance in the context when the $100 billion target has been missed sounds obscene, and using help to the people of Ukraine as a shield against criticism on this is double obscene.
So you've sacrificed funding to assist African nations in dealing with their energy and economic crisis for a war with uncertain end. I know you as a single person with no children, may not take seriously global warming, but African families are very concerned.
So the Ukraine war isn't just deflecting our attention from the climate crisis. It's draining money from the already inadequate budget to deal with this looming global catastrophe.
And by the way, are we seriously supposed to believe that there's suddenly extra foreign aid when all we've ever heard about until now is how much the world's famine problem is underfunded? G7 nations literally just wrapped up a summit where they tried to pin a global famine on Russian President Vladimir Putin rather than the damage done by their own sanctions during this conflict in Ukraine. They just pledged $4.5 billion against global hunger, and Oxfam International still doesn't think even that is enough.
Faced with the worst hunger crisis in a generation, the G7 have simply failed to take the action that is needed. Many millions will face terrible hunger and starvation as a result. Instead of doing what is needed, the G7 are leaving millions to starve and cooking the planet. This is further exacerbated by their lack of progress in delivering promised finance to support climate action in developing countries.
Meanwhile, the UN's World Food Agency says that a lack of cash means cutting rations for starving people in Yemen. But when faced with a choice between those priorities and catering to the weapons whims expressed by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in his latest Zoom call, guess who wins out? Makes you wonder if these folks are actually serious about solving any of the problems that they purport to be actual problems when all of their supposedly biggest concerns are now suddenly taking a back seat to their obsession with sticking it to Russia and Vladimir Putin. Even their own agendas are now becoming collateral damage.
We discussed the looming financial crunch for the African and Asian countries with the co-director of the International Action Centre, Sarah Flounders. Now, she's described the Western aid surge to Ukraine at the expense of helping people in other nations as a case of criminal misconduct.
This is one more effort to use public relations firms, stars, media, cameras to project a completely false image of the Ukraine. And it also involves mega money, dollars that are never seen even by the people of Ukraine, but certainly not by the people around the world who are facing absolute famine because of the sanctions and war imposed. Of course, they want to pay attention to Ukraine, where they can promise that they're a big democratic force and push off to the side the absolute destruction that they have created in Afghanistan and in Yemen to this day. This is not only hypocrisy, it's absolutely criminal conduct on a huge scale. I mean, this is war crimes to refuse to provide food for millions of people in need when the ability is there.